Hello everyone. In this video I would like to explain the concept of loops within the context of problem. So what we would like to do today is basically trying to solve this problem. We would like to design a solution for a program that solves the following problem for us. So we will follow exactly the same steps which we used to have in the class. We have the problem statement, we need to find the input, the model that's going to be used, the output, then we would like to write the steps that the program should follow in order to uh, execute this program. And once we write the algorithm, we would like to design a flowchart using the Raptor, and then we test its correctness. So let's read the problem carefully, then we would like to see how can we analyze this problem according to the requirements. Cinescape selects a different collection of new movies to play in its theaters every month. So we have a collection of movies that are played on monthly basis. The owners would like to know the average monthly income in a given year. So as you can see from this sentence that we would like to know the income, the monthly income in a given year. So actually the average monthly income in a given year. So if every theater has an income on every month, as you can see here. So for example, in January, the theaters will have an income, will return an income. In February, there is another income. In March, there is a third income, and so forth. So what we would like to do according to the question that we would like to find the average monthly income in a given year. So we have to see what will be the total income in the year. Then we find the average. So that means we need to have, according to this, we need to add the incomes of January, February, March, April, and all the months of the year. Then we find the average of those months, of those incomes in these months. So what we would like to do here is design and implement a program which asks the user. So as we mentioned earlier in classes, we said that whenever we have ask or enter or something like that, that means the program should ask for an input. So design and implement a program which asks the user to enter the income of the company per month. Okay, and then computes and displays the average monthly income in the year. So as you can see from the requirements here that it's clear what we would like to take as an input, and it's clear also what we would like to display on the screen, to show on the screen as an output. However, for the income, for the input, we need to enter the income of the company per month. Okay, so we have 12 months in the year, and we need to know the income in each month. So that means we require 12 inputs. 12 inputs, 12 incomes. Income on January, income of February, income of March, of April, of May, and so forth. So you would like to repeat the process. As you can see from this, you have two options. You can take the input 12 times, which is gonna be a lengthy process to implement, or we can repeat the same process again and again for 12 times if we use loops. And once we take all the incomes, we need to display the average monthly income in the year. So as you can see at the end of the paragraph, it says note that there are 12 months per year. So just a quick uh, uh, summary of the description of this problem, we can say that we will be having 12 inputs. Okay, so we will be having 12 inputs, and we would like to show one value at the end, which is the output, which is the average, and there should be some computation in the middle. So let's start, just try to put down here some information according to our understanding to the problem statement. So what the program needs to know in order to compute and display the average requires 12 inputs. So here we will just write 12 incomes. Then we will see how we are going to take these 12 incomes from the user. You can also call it as, or write it as follows. We can say income, and we say between parentheses 12 times. Because basically we would like to take the income 12 times, income for each month. And what we will be doing here, what to show, we are going to show one value at the end, which is the average of all those incomes. So here we'll just write the average. So we have 12 inputs, we have one output. In between, how do we compute the average of the 12 incomes? So the average of any set of values is the summation of those values divided by their count, their number. So what we will do as a formula here, we will just say the summation or the sum of 12 incomes divided by 12. So we will be adding all the 12 incomes which we will take as an input from the user. We will add them all, then we divide by 12, which is the number of months per year. So this is how we will figure out in terms how we analyze or break down the problem into three categories or three parts, which is input, 12 incomes, the output, which is the average of incomes, and what to compute is the summation of the 12 incomes divided by 12. Okay, now what the program is supposed to do. What are the steps that the program will follow to do the task for us? Okay, I'm gonna write it in the long way, then we will see how do we make it shorter. So the first thing that the program is supposed to do, as we used to have, is to start basically. Then after the program starts, according to the problem statement, we need to ask for 12 incomes. Now we can do it as follows. As I mentioned, I'm going to start with the long way, then we will do it in the shorter way. So here we'll just ask enter the income of, or let's say enter income. Just say enter the income. So enter the income, this means this is the income of the first month, which is January, for example. Then step number 3 is going to be enter the income once again. That means this is the income for February. Then we say one more time, enter the income. That means for March. Then we do the same for April. And we keep doing the same for all the other months. So you have to do it also for May, June, July, and so forth. So you need to repeat this process 12 times. Then after you enter 12 incomes, you need to find the average. So the average, so let's say this is a step 2, 3, 4, 5. This is for I'm on April, so I think it's gonna be step 13. After you make 12 enter incomes, then we go to step 13, and no, I think step 13 is gonna be the one for December. So let's do step 14. Step 14 is gonna compute. So after you enter the income for 12 times, you need to compute the average. So here we need to say compute average, which equals to income plus income plus income plus 12 times divided by 12. And once we do so, we can just say 15 display average, then 16 is gonna be n. Okay. The problem here is that if we repeat this process 12 times, we cannot just use the same name of the variable. We need to change the name of the variable because of the following. When we say enter the income for the first time, let's say the user is going to enter the value 20. So 20 now is stored in the variable income. When you go to the next step and you say enter the income once back again, what will happen is basically it will use the new value that will be entered by the user at this step. Let's say the user first has entered 20, let's say here. In this step, let's say that the user is going to enter 7. So 7, the value that's going to be entered next by the user, it will be replacing the old value. So we will lose the value of the first income. So to have a proper implementation for this problem, we need to say income 1, income 2, income 3, income 4, and so forth. So when we go to the average, we need to say income 1 plus income 2 plus income 3 plus income 4, and so forth. Okay, so that means we need to put 12 input statements when we compute according to this. We have many variables in the formula. Of course, they have to be between parentheses so that we avoid division before addition before division, and then you display the average. So this is the long way of solving the problem. Now let's just go a little bit for Raptor and we see what happens when we try to do something similar to this. Let me go and open Raptor. Okay, what we would like to do here is if we'd like to make a proper conversion of the algorithm. So here we have the start. We need to put input and input and input, another input, and we keep adding inputs for 12 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12. Now we need to change all these things. So we say enter income. So this is the first income, but here we need to say, as we mentioned earlier, that we need to change the name of the variable to make it income 1. Now here I'm gonna say same thing, enter income, this, and we say income 2, income 3, income 4, so as you can see, it's a lengthy process, but I just need to show you that it's really lengthy, so that we need to minimize the number of steps. Income 10, we have 2 more, income 11, and here's income 12. So as you can see, we have 12 incomes that's gonna be entered, Then after that we need to do the assignment statement, which is finding the average. The average equals to the following. Now I need to say income 1 plus income 2 plus income 3 plus income 4 plus 5 plus income 6 plus income 7 plus income 8 plus income 9 plus income 10, income 11, income 12. So we have 12 incomes divided by 12. As you can see how long is the formula to compute the average of 12 incomes. Then we need to display the output on the screen. Just need to save this small, so I'm going to call it CSC. Okay, from the output screen we just need to say the average income equals to plus, and we put the value of variable average. So now what happens, we are gonna enter the first income. So if we just play this, it will ask for 12 income now. So let's say for example the first income is 2, the second is 2, third is 2, fourth is 2, fifth is 2, 2, 2, 2. Let's enter 2 for all of them. For example, this is just an example, 2. Now when you press enter, what will happen? It will add 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 12 times. So if we add 2 to itself 12 times, it's going to be 24. 24 is going to be divided by 12, which is going to be 2 as well. So the output of this program is going to be 2. So let's just see what will happen. So it will do the computation, display the average on the screen. So the average, as you can see here, the average income equals to 2. So our program works fine. It's correct. However, it's not efficient in terms of number of steps. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry, it's starting from the start. So we have 12 steps inputs, 13 and 14. So we have 14 steps in addition to the start and the end. So we have 16 steps on the program. Now we need to minimize that. The way of doing so is as follows. What we will, since we are going to take 12 incomes, so we want to keep track of the summation as we take the incomes. So what do I mean by that? So for example here, at this step, when we say enter income, so when we take the first income from the user, what we will do before, in order not to lose this value, because actually the problem here for defining 12 variables is that whenever we take the first income and would like to take the second income, if we use the same variable, we will lose the value of the first income. So if the user, as I mentioned earlier, if the user enters the value 20 here and then enters the value 7 here, and we were using the same variable, let's say income without the numbers, that means when he enters 20 then he enters 7, the value 20 will be lost, so we will just get the 7. So what we need to do is basically taking an input, before we take the other input, we just store this value and we add it to the current summation. So for example, let's say before once we start the program, the total amount of income so far is 0. However, when we take the first income, we will add this value to the total. So that means when the user, for example, enters 20, so that means we got one income for January. That income will be added to a specific variable we call total. Then when we take another income, we can use the same variable because we have already stored the value of the income at the first step. So if we choose the same variable back again, we will never lose the previous value because we have already added to the total. So when we take the first income, add to the total. Take the second income, add to the total. Take the third income, add to the total, and so forth. So we can change it to become as follows. So I can still make it income, and here I'm gonna make it income too. So enter income, enter income. However, as I mentioned, if we enter a value here, then we enter another value here, it will be replacing the previous one, so we will lose the old one. So what we will be doing is basically we will introduce a variable here in between that adds the incomes that have been entered so far. So we will just do the following. We will make a variable called total, for example, and we say here the new value of the total equals to the old value of the total plus the new income. So if we do it this way, enter an income, get the income from the user. Once the income is taken by the user, from the user, the income will be added to the total and stored in the total. So if at the beginning total equal to 0, then if the income is 20, the 20 will be added to 0, so the new total will become 20. So that means we had one income so far, which is 20. Now if we use the same variable back again here, what we will do is apply the same formula back again. So that means when we take the income for February, we will add the income of February to the previous total that has been computed so far, and this is going to be the total of January and February. So if we took the same, we put the same formula here back again, and we say total equals total plus income. So what will happen in this case? We will take an income, add it to the total. Take another income, add it to the total. Here it's going to be the same thing. We will just remove the income variable 3 and we put once back again total plus income. So if you just look at the process, enter income, get income. So when you get the income of January, add to the total. Get the income of February. The February will be added to the total that has been computed or calculated so far. When we take the income of March, the income will be added to the total. As you can see, we are not using different variable names. You are using exactly the same name. So here income, here income, here income, and we just add to the total and so forth. So this process is supposed to be repeated 12 times as well. So for each step is going to be 2 steps, 2 steps, 2 steps, 2 steps. That means we increase the number of steps instead of decreasing them. However, if you just look at the every 2 consecutive steps, enter income, get income, total equals total plus income. Then enter income, get income, total equal total plus income. So that means they are identical, even with the name of the variable. They are exactly the same. So what does that mean? That means instead of putting these 2 blocks 12 times, we can repeat the process 12 times. Repeat it 12 times. So that means I just need 2 blocks instead of having 24 blocks. Just 2 blocks and repeat these 2 blocks 12 times. So what we will be doing is basically we're going to remove all these blocks and we just keep the first 2. So let's just get rid of all these blocks, those which have to enter the income for 12 times, and we do the following. So I need to repeat this process, taking the input and compute the total. Take the input, compute the total. Take the input, compute the total. I want to repeat this 12 times. So from the this area in which I'm going to use blocks, these blocks I'm going to use the repeat block. So I will just take this one, this repeat block, and I'll place it at the beginning. So as you can see, it's loop. That means repeat. Now what would you like to repeat? The statements in which you want to repeat, you put them here between the loop shape and the diamond shape. So here, as you can see, it will repeat all these statements in this path. Repeat, do this. Now when it comes to this, it will check, is the condition is true or false? As you can see here, if the condition is false, that means if it's no, it will repeat the process back again. So you need to put a condition. If you want to repeat this process several times, you need to put a condition in which its value is false, and you keep repeating this, but at a certain point it should become true, then in order to exit the loop. Okay, so the first thing, what we would like to repeat, as you mentioned, I'm going to repeat this and that. So I will take this block and I put it here, and I take this block and I put it here. So as you can see now, at the beginning of the program, you will have a repetition. What we are going to repeat, you repeat, taking an input, add it to the total. Then check, is this condition is true or false? If it's false, you want to repeat back again, repeat back again, repeat back again. Once this condition becomes true, we will exit and we compute the average of the for the 12 incomes. Okay, now what we would like to do according to the question, we would like to repeat this for 12 times. I'm going to repeat this 12 times. How do I repeat this for 12 times? I'm going to repeat. For Raptor and for this specific, we used to have something like repeat in the play lab, repeat 3 times, repeat 4 times. That block is not available here. We need to design the repeat, the loop, such that it repeats the process 12 times. So usually whenever we have such a situation, we need to create a counter that counts how many times we are repeating the process. So what we would like to do is the following. We will create a counter. This counter will keep counting every time we take an income. So for example, when we take an income, then we add it to the total, the counter will be added by 1. That means we took one value, and I will keep counting the values as long as we are in the loop. Now once this counter reaches the limit, which is 12, we will just exit. So here, what we would like to do is, when we take the income and we add the income to the total, I am going to add one more step here, which is going to be a counter. So I will just say I have a counter, and the value of the counter will be added by 1. So we say the new value of the counter equals to the old value of the counter plus 1. So here inside the loop, we'll take income, add the income to the total, then add the counter by 1, and repeat. Do this, add the counter by 1, then repeat. Now as we move on, how would I stop? So here in this condition, I need to add here in this diamond, I need to add a condition in which its value is no to repeat, and when that condition becomes yes, becomes a true, we will exit. So let's think about it. If the counter doesn't equal to 12, if the counter does not equal to 12, let's say 1. If 1 equals to 12, if yes, you will exit. If no, 1 doesn't equal to 12, you will repeat. So what we would like to do here is basically the following. I have a counter. Let's say equal 12. Or let's say it doesn't equal 12. Then we will add, because this is how we write doesn't. Okay, now if we take the first income and we add 1 to the counter should become 1. Now 1 does not equal to 12. 1 doesn't equal to 12. Is this a true or false? 1 doesn't equal to 12. 1 yes. 1 doesn't equal to 12, which is yes, it's true. So we will exit. I don't want it to exit. I want to repeat. So what we will do here is basically we have to do the opposite. So I will change this count equal 12. So let's just look to this as follows. We enter the income, we add the income to the total, we add the counter by 1. Now the counter's value is 1. 1, does it equal to 12? No, it doesn't equal. 1 equal to 12? No. No means repeat. 2 equals to 12? No, repeat. 3 equals to 12? No, repeat. Once we reach 12, 12 equals to 12, yes, exit. So this is the exact condition which we need here. However, we have two things which we need to pay attention for. Here we are adding the income to the total. So once we take the first income from the user, we add the first income to the total. So what's the first value of the total? The initial value of total is basically when you start the program, the total is supposed to start from the value 0. So before we come to the repetition, we at the beginning of the program, we will just say total is assigned the value 0. And the same thing will be added to what? To the counter, because here I'm going to add 1 to the counter. So what's the initial value of the counter? So counter equals 0. So total equals 0, counter equals 0, then we will repeat the loop to do all these steps. And once we enter all the incomes, all the 12 incomes, as you can see, the income is stored in the total. All the incomes are added to the total. So once we finish all the 12 repetitions, we will exit this once the counter becomes 12. Now here in the average, I don't have to do all these formulas. I know that the incomes, all incomes have been stored in the total. So I will just change this formula so that it becomes total divided by 12. So the average now is equals to the total divided by 12, because the total is the one that contains all the information. So total divided by 12 is the average, then display the average on the screen. Now, how many steps do we have? In the previous example, we had 16 steps, including the start and the end. So how many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we managed to reduce them to 11. However, if the number of steps wasn't 12, if it was 100, in that solution, you will have more than 100 steps. But for this solution, it will be exactly the same number of steps as given here. All what we need to change is the value 12, we change it to 100, and this value 12, we change it to 100. So this is a more efficient way of representing the algorithm. So let's play. So total 0, counter 0. Now we'd like to repeat the process 12 times. So let's enter the value 1 for the first income. Now 1 will be added to the total, then the counter will become 1. Oh, I have a problem. Okay, sorry. I'll have a problem. Variable count is not found. It's good we had that error. So here, as you can see here, I use the variable counter, and here I'm using the variable count. So we need to change it to become counter. Okay, let's run it back again, and we'll see what happens. So enter the first income. So this is going to enter the value 1. Enter the second income. Let me enter 2. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm assuming that the value of the income is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say we have 11 and 12. Now, before I press enter here, I just want to show you something in the calculator. Now what we have added so far is the value 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12. So this is the summation of the 12 incomes. If we divide by 12, we got the value 6.5. So what we are trying to do here, this program now, according to the input in which I entered, is supposed also to display the value 6.5. So let's see what will be happening when we exit. So as you can see, it exits the loop, compute the average, and display the average. So see here, the average income equal to 6.5. So this is how we use loops, and basically loops is about having a counter. The counter starts from a starting value, then you have to end it with a specific value, and you repeat in between. The counter should be updated in the loop. So it starts with the value, ends with the value, and it's updated. So keep repeating and update, keep repeating and update until the condition becomes yes, true, it exits, and it performs the task. Now let's just go back to the algorithm, and we try to change it according to our new flowchart. So step number 2, we start. Step number 2, set total to 0. Number 3, set counter to 1. Step number 4, repeat 12 times. Of course, here you are writing English statements, so you can just say repeat 12 times. Or, no, it's better to say, since we have set the counter, we just say repeat until counter equals to 12. So repeat the following until counter equals 12. What's the following? So the following is basically here as we enter or ask the user to enter income. So this is going to be step 4.1. Then add the income to total. Number 3, add the counter by 1. So if we just look at the Raptor example, we ask the user to enter an income, we add the income to the total, we add the counter by 1. So we are going to repeat this process until the counter becomes 12. So once we finish these steps, in step 5, I don't know why it's going to be down. In step 5, we just say compute the average, which is equal to total divided by 12, and display the average, and this is the solution of this example. And that's it. That's all. Thank you.